Welcome, ladies and germs, to my latest episode of Guitar Archaeology, where we'll be scoping out a 1959 Silvertone 1417L. I was given the opportunity to add this vintage guitar to my collection on my 35th birthday. It's a real gas of a guitar, and we'll be having a blast as we discover the history, features, and specs in the process in bringing this tired old axe back to life. Let's get started. Let's turn back the clock about 100 years, well before the advent of the internet and computers. Back in the early 20th century, as technology evolved and consumer electronics became popular, the major department stores in the U.S. were quick to add these increasingly popular items to their inventories. To establish brand recognition and product continuity, these department stores created in-house brand names for their consumer electronics products. The Silvertone brand was created by Sears, Roebuck & Company in 1915 for their new line of sound equipment, which eventually superseded their Supertone brand. They began with a phonograph in 1915, added radio sets in the 1920s, acoustic guitars in the 1930s, and electric guitars from the 1940s through the 1970s. Several manufacturers developed and produced these items for Sears, which would bear the Silvertone brand name. This Silvertone 1417 model was built by a New Jersey-based company called Danelectro, which is where we'll shift the focus of this history lesson for the time being. The Danelectro company was founded by a man named Nathan Daniel, or Nat for short. Nat was born in 1912 in New York City to Lithuanian parents that immigrated to the U.S. just a year before. Having not spoken English at home, Nat had a difficult time in school, but developed a passion for electronics and tinkered with radios in his teenage years. Nat dropped out of college during the Great Depression in the 1930s and started to sell his own designed and built audio amplifiers. His first big customer was Epiphone, for which he built amplifiers from 1934 through 1946. During World War II, Nat served as a civilian for the U.S. Army Signal Corps at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. He was integral in designing military vehicular radio shielding for the jeeps and motorcycles used in the war. After World War II, Nat reopened his amplifier business in New Jersey and began operating under the name Danelectro, which he devised from Daniel Electronics. His success with Epiphone garnered the attention of department stores, and he soon began to build amplifiers for Sears, Roebuck, and Montgomery Ward. In the early 1950s, the Danelectro company began designing electric guitars. It was Nat's goal to bring guitars to the market that were simple yet innovative, good quality yet affordable to the masses. Danelectro introduced the C model in 1954, which was sold through 1955. In 1956, Danelectro released the U model as a replacement for the C model. Both models were available at Sears with the Silvertone label. Okay, now that we've covered a little history behind who manufactured and who sold this guitar, let's turn the dial to the year 1959. And just for fun, and to set the tone, let's do a little rapid fire of random factoids from '59. The country was led by President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon. The United States welcomes its 49th state, Alaska, on January 3rd. Later in the year, Hawaii becomes the 50th state on August 21st. Here's some notable people that we lost in 1959. Lou Costello from Abbott and Costello, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and U.S. Army Chief of Staff General George C. Marshall. Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper die in a plane crash on February 3rd, which has been referred to as the day the music died. Some notable people born in 1959 include Vice President-elect and former Indiana Governor Mike Pence, NBA All-Star Irvin Magic Johnson, golfer Fred Couples, and musician Weird Al Yankovic. The Guggenheim Museum in New York City opens its doors to the public. Walt Disney releases feature animated film Sleeping Beauty. Charlton Heston stars in Academy Award-winning movie Ben-Hur. Roger Ward wins the 43rd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Lee Petty, the father of Richard Petty and grandfather of Kyle Petty, wins the inaugural Daytona 500 in his number 42 Oldsmobile Super 88. The Los Angeles Dodgers defeat the Chicago White Sox to win the World Series and set the highest attendance record that still stands to this day. Johnny Unitas and the Baltimore Colts defeat the New York Giants to win the NFL championship. The first family dollar store opens in Charlotte, North Carolina. The company we know today as Guitar Center is founded as the Organ Center in Hollywood, California. And finally, Sears and Roebuck released their Fall-Winter 1959 catalog offering the new Silvertone 1417 model. Okay, so now it's time to take a look at some of the features and specifications of this Silvertone guitar. Now, just to clear up any confusion, as you might have noticed in the Sears catalog listing, two model numbers for this guitar, 1417 and 1419. These two models are identical with the exception of paint color. The 1419 references the black and the 1417 references the bronze color. In comparison to the previous year's Danelectro made Silvertone model, there is very little change. The only change, really, is the introduction of the new modern style headstock, known in the Danelectro community as the dolphin nose headstock. This was a shift from the old Coke bottle shaped headstock, which had 3 tuners on each side. This new modern style headstock would be used through 1962, when Sears retired this style of guitar based on the Danelectro U series. The 1417 and 1419 models were sold from fall of '59 through summer of '61. Then underwent more design change to the neck joint, the rear axis cover, and output jack location, which warranted new model numbers for '62. Let's start by talking about the body of the guitar. The body design is the Danelectro U shape, painted bronze, with white vinyl bound side strips. The body is mostly hollow, consisting of formica-clad masonite affixed to the neck and bridge blocks made of solid poplar wood. This design was very economical and also very lightweight. Moving on to the neck of the guitar, which is constructed from poplar wood with a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, 21 medium frets, and white dot inlays. Brazilian rosewood is a favored material for fretboards and is a nice feature to find on a guitar in this price range, especially since it was later banned in the US with the CITES Treaty to protect the endangered species. The poplar was originally painted bronze to match the body, but this guitar had the paint removed from the back of the neck, which is a common preference for some guitar players. One particularly interesting and unique element that Nat Daniels used in the neck was dual I-beam steel reinforcement. As anyone with a pre-1950s guitar can attest, many unreinforced necks did not fare well over time. Of course, the majority of the industry began using adjustable truss rods to apply tension and correct neck bowing. Nat Daniels believed this to be a band-aid approach and set his sights on building a rock-solid neck that wasn't prone to bowing or twisting, and thus developed his dual-channel steel I-beam solution that he coined the Never Warp Neck. Let's talk about the hardware. On the Dolphin Nose headstock, Danelectro used 6-in-line open gear strip tuners with round white celluloid buttons. Danelectro used an aluminum nut on this model, which added some chime and resonance to the sound and perhaps a bit more durability over plastic or bone. The bridge on this guitar is a clever design, balancing low-cost simplicity with good 4-way adjustability. A flat chromed metal plate is secured in the rear with a single screw and rests atop 2 front screws seated in beveled holes for stability and adjustment access. String slots are cut into the rear of the bridge, and a centered slot allows for sliding and pivoting the saddle for dialing in intonation. Volume and tone controls are dressed with grooved white plastic push-on knobs with matching plastic strap buttons. Originally, this guitar would have come with a plain white melamine pickguard, but this one was replaced with an identically shaped metal guard at some point. And finally, the electronics. This guitar is just one pickup, but a very special pickup. The unique Danelectro sound is largely due to its iconic lipstick pickup. They fitted a 4.5 kilo ohm pickup into a pair of lipstick tubes sourced from a cosmetics manufacturer. This was an economical design, creating the lowest cost pickup available at the time, but has become very popular for its sound and style. A surprising amount of tone versatility is made possible from 2 tone circuits. A 3-position toggle switch allows you to choose between a high-pass filter circuit, which uses the tone knob to roll off the bass and emulate a bridge pickup, a low-pass filter circuit, which uses the tone knob to roll off treble for a warmer sound, or to bypass the tone knob altogether. Both the volume and tone potentiometers are 1 megaohm. That'll be it for this episode of Guitar Archaeology. Be sure to tune in next time as we begin the restoration on this '59 Silvertone.